We all love a great comeback story, and I'll tell you, we've got one today on Finish Strong for sure. This guy that you're about to meet is a Christian rock singer who in 2015 suffered a traumatic brain injury that could have ended his career and his life. But God showed up, and miraculously today he's rocking for the Lord. He's writing songs like never before. You're about to meet him. I'm Dan Wheeler, and I'm on location with Brian Rowland and Terry Steen. Guys, we're at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and we've been having a blast.
Oh, my, it's been so great. And, you know, we haven't been able, as you know, to be all together in the same room like this. So this makes it so much more fun.
And it's so cozy.
Yeah, real cozy.
It's so nice, isn't it?
And I was noticing this is a little scary.
It's like we have the snake pit.
Raiders of the Lost Ark
It's like a Metallica concert. That's the snake pit.
Well, this is our new setup. It's a podcast booth in a box that rolls around with us, so we can do podcasts from anywhere. Our guest today is the front man, the lead singer, and the primary songwriter for Empowered. So let's finish strong. And Benny DiChiara joins us now. Welcome, Benny.
Nice to see you.
Hey, Benny. Good to see you.
That was good. High five. Yeah. I like the clapper. The real clapper. That was awesome.
Very professional.
Very professional.
We've had a great time hanging out with this guy here at National Religious Broadcasters. But hey, your group Empowered is on a roll. You guys, with 3 days, you had several #1 hits on the gospel indie charts, right?
Yeah.
And now your latest project, Yahweh Nisi. Pick it up.
Ooh, yeah.
Pick it up. It's had a tremendous impact. Tell us a little bit about the name and the message that this album carries.
Hey, thanks for having me, by the way. I so look forward for about, I don't know, a full 3 days of doing this.
Yes.
So
Really? And this is going to be your favorite interview.
This is going to be my favorite interview of all time.
Yes.
I can tell. Look, I'm sweating.
I know.
Could somebody pat me down?
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Hey, Yahweh Nisi in the Hebraic is like the Lord is my banner, right? So for every project that we do, like our last project was 3 days. And so basically the title track for that just points people to the resurrection, right? And so it's very popular with radio at Easter, for instance. And then so we pray over each of these projects. So for the Lord is my banner, for Yahweh Nisi, God was speaking to me as I was pressing in about this. And, you know, as artists, and we do music, right? As artists, sometimes the Spirit, especially if you're doing Christian music, it says, here's a thing, run with that, right? And so you go, and then you run with it. And then other times, God says, here's a thing, and this is what I want you to do specifically with it, right? And that's what happened with this, with Yahweh. So he's like, the world has bad and evil in it right now, right? More evil than bad. Let's talk about people in positions of authority in government, school, business, churches. I said churches, just evil. That's all we hear about.
Right.
And God is saying there's millions of people on the earth who say they're Christians. So my question is, where are you? And why is your mouth shut? Right? So I'm like, who? And since, you know, since my brain injury, it's dangerous. You know, even the rocks will cry out. I find myself outside telling rocks in my garden, you know, I can't hear you. So it's that kind of thing.
So the brain injury still has effects, but we'll get to that.
So I'm trying to talk that. So off me.
Hey, we can all relate to this guy right here.
He's our kind of guy. So as he's pressing in, right? And he's like, there's millions of people who say they're Christians on the earth. And like, why are you silent through all this? So he's like, Yahweh Nisi, the Lord is my banner. Think about this, guys. In the Middle Ages, I love history, right? In the Middle Ages, in biblical days, when your army went to battle, what did they follow? The standard bearer with the banner, right?
Yeah.
Banner left, march left. Banner right, march right, right? Yeah. If you were the enemy, what did you see coming? The banner, which meant danger's coming.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And so God said, for this thing, there's a few things I'd like you to do. Marching footsteps, rowdy as it goes. And it's a battle cry for me, for Christians, to come together and speak against this anti-biblical thing that's going on in the world right now.
Yes.
Look, guys, time is short. God is about to send his son back, and he's like, are you with me or are you against me? And he says he needs his people to come together. And it's got some heat, man. It's got some energy.
You call this album a war cry for Jesus?
Yeah.
And is that the reason why? Because of the banner, or is there another reason why?
Because we can get into it with the brain injury thing, some things that he's done to me through that. But basically, the time for sugarcoating and the time for doing I'm speaking for me, not other Christian bands out there. So please, if you're a Christian band out there and you get offended by this, pray about that. Please don't think about it. But I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about me. The time for feel good messages from me are pretty much done. Yeah. Right? Because I tell my kids, don't read Revelation anymore. Watch the television. Just watch the news.
Yeah.
Right.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, much like the prophets in the Bible who went out and they didn't care. They were going to tell you like it. And God says, I chose you for this. I want you to do. I met John Cooper a couple of days ago while we were here at NRB, right? Love that about this guy. He's doing Monsters of Rock, secular stuff overseas. In the middle of his set, he's stopping, going, "Do you know Jesus and what he could do for you?" And I'm like, "Bring that stuff."
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. As Christians, where's that fire?
Yeah.
Where's that passion? For me, it's a stage, instruments, lights, that whole thing. We do a show. You can listen to a stream or whatever. For a doctor, it could be a hospital room, surgical suite. For a teacher, he's got a classroom. Everybody, God's given a stage.
Right.
What are we going to do
Our
with it?
stage today is really confined because we're at the NRB. We got a lot to cover.
It's all right.
A lot of questions for you. So
come on.
I think we're going to do a second one.
I got another one here. Jesus Can Heal the World.
Yeah.
That's one of your songs here on this album.
Yeah.
And it's so timely. And you said you're pointing to people, to the only people who can fix it. So,
right.
The only one person, I guess,
right.
who can fix it.
Yeah. So Mikey Howard's our producer, 7 Time Down and Love Journey Music. And he's produced our last 2 records. And he's family, I think. He's part of the band at this point, kind of feels like. And we just have a really great connection. The thing I love most about him is the same thing I love the most about John Schlitt. And it's the thing I love the most about Cooper, whatever, is like, they don't have the "don't you know who I think I am" thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's just, this is what God has me to do, whatever. So actually, so Jesus Can Heal the World. Mikey actually co-wrote that with us and put that together. And is there any other title that you need as to what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how do you fix teachers indoctrinating kids?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Didn't he also co-write the song, like the Daddy song, where you wrote it after your father passed away?
Yeah,
Tell us about that, how that came about and what that song means to you.
Yeah, well, so Daddy Song, I'll Meet You There, is the last track on this record. It actually came out as a single. So I went to Mikey's studio because we did a version for Christmas of We Three Kings.
Oh, really?
Which came out stupid. It sounds like Empowered ran into TSO and we did a thing. It's big. There's a YouTube. It's big, right?
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, I'm like, if you want to know what his power and majesty feels like, you should hear that from stage. It's incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
So I went to do the vocals because it was the last thing. So went up and saw him and did the vocals. And as we were finishing that, he says, "Hey, talk to me about the song that you had on your heart for a minute." So my dad had quintuple bypass, aortic bypass, stents everywhere. I mean, all of his plumbing got reworked, right? So I'm the oldest of 6. So it's always been a party at the house. And so I'm prepping my siblings and I'm like, listen, one day we're going to get a call that Dad, boop, and it's done. So I'm trying to prepare him for that, right? So he said he had a pain in his hip, went to the doctor after all of the things they did some PET scans, everything. The doctor says, "Hey man, you have cancer." So me and my daddy were close. If you're Italian, you call your dad daddy because it's the deal.
I like it.
And right. And I was very close to my daddy. And I was a Navy corpsman, like a medic in my early life. And so I read his PET scans and I was like, you know what came to my mind? I was like, my poor daddy does not have a shot on this side.
Yeah.
but he's about to be miraculously healed.
Yeah.
And I had to resolve myself to that. And as believers, you go, really? Because God can do anything. And I'm like, surely he can.
Yeah.
But in this
that's
case,
the ultimate healing.
it's the ultimate healing. And so 9 days. Diagnosed 9 days later.
Wow.
And so within the last 2 or 3 days, I was talking to him, and I don't know if your viewers or listeners are going to relate to this, but boldness is sometimes a good thing. And I was like, so Dad, not only do you have a place at the buffet table, you have a name tag set up. You know what I'm saying? So I need you to tell me, you know where you're going. Yes, Pastor Boy, I know where I'm going. That was his nickname for me because I'm like, Dad, not today. Great joke. This, if not for you, for me, I need you to tell me. He's like, Jesus died. He rose again. I believe that. I'm going to heaven, right? I'm like, well, except for the right thing. Yes, you are in fact right. And guess what? You are about to be immaculately healed, Dad. It's going to suck for us. It's going to be great for you. Great for you. And then we had the big thing. And then, you know, I took care of him when he was in the bed after he passed, just because I've done it for people in the military. I do it for my dad. And that was good closure for me. And we got all it done. So I say, you know, God put it on my heart. He says, there's so many people who have lost somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what I want you to put. Although loss is a dramatic and sometimes traumatic thing for believers, there's joy in it. Because if we know their address,
absolutely,
we know we're going to see them again, right?
Yep.
And so that's the whole thing. I'll meet you there. And so every time we played a song live, just people just.
So you think that's why it went to number one, and
it
had
went,
that emotion to it?
Let me say this, sort of as an artist. I'm going to use your disc.
Okay.
So this guy here, Shane.
I do this one, folks.
Yeah. Lead guitar player.
Right.
Crazy talented. It sounds like Brian Johnson. Just went through some stuff with his wife, ex-wife now, that kind of thing. You know, life stuff, right? Yeah. Justin, all kind of other guitar player, extraordinarily talented too. When these two start talking, let's drop it down to seventh. I'm like, go in a corner. So anyway, lots of stuff going on there. Me, you know, bad divorce many years ago, traumatic brain injury 8 years ago this October.
Which we're going to talk about in just a moment.
My wife, breast cancer surgery 4 years ago. She's completely healed. You know, you go through stuff.
Yeah.
My baby in a band, he's like 29. Jeff. Jeff's his bass player.
Is
his
he old
mom,
enough to be in a band?
yeah, he's old enough. We're teaching him up. But his mom at 16, when he was 16, she overdosed. Lost his mother. Mick, my drummer, the day we did the 3 days video, he went home. The next day, his son started feeling bad, goes to the doctor. They put him on a helicopter to St. Jude's because he's got cancer.
Wow.
And so guess what we're doing in August? Ringing the bell. And this boy is on fire. And he's going to school, melting his, man, he's melting kids' faces off, going about what Jesus did. We let him hear Daddy's song when it came out.
Yeah.
I just, if you don't think as a parent you have your words matter to your kids, what you're teaching, what you're sowing into them. We let him hear that song. This is at 7 years old, guys. And the song finishes playing. We're in the house, and he says, Cruz man, what do you think of that? Cruz says, this song is going to touch people's lives, Dad.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, shut up. There's adults that don't have that kind of, right?
Yeah. Foresight.
And he gets it. And I told Mick, I said, well done, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, because that's where he gets that from. And so it's just, I think, so our name is empowered. It should be Band of Misfit Boys. And this is why I say because of all that stuff, right? So when you take all of our combined histories of life junk stuff, right? Yeah. And we tell the stories that God's given us through the music, which point people to his story, history.
Right.
It's nothing that we do, but because we're being obedient, it resonates with who's hearing it. And I think to your point, that's why these rankings and all that, I mean, all that, you know, that's fleeting.
Right.
It really is. And if you get hung up on it, and it's easy to, but you can't get sucked into the vortex.
Yeah. Speaking of fleeting, I know we have limited time here, but I want to get into your brain injury. August of 2015. Give us a snapshot of what happened.
Yeah, so I'm the Politico in my family. So there was a big election in 16 coming up, and there was a lot of crazy running. And so I wanted to see who was least crazy. And I fell asleep on a sofa. My wife was in the bedroom. 6:30 in the morning, my phone goes off. It's screaming. And I'm in the living room. So I'm like, uh-oh. So she came out of the room, had the phone extended. I remember standing up from the sofa, and I've got a 20-minute hole of nothing, like nothing. So she tells the neurologist, because I don't know, when I got to the hardwood section of my floor, I was horizontal. No slip, no trip, no socks, no water. I didn't catch myself. When I hit, it was like a gunshot. So I had a double fracture in the back of my skull. I had a frontal lobe crush. I had a internal brain bleed, and I bled out across the front of my face. And so she's like, we need to go lay down. And as a Navy medic, you don't lay people down if they get it, right? You'll sleep them into a coma, but I was not aware. Right. And so I get in the bed. So after about 10 minutes in the bed, I start seeing signs that I recall in my Navy training as a medic. And it's amazing. Hey, for your listeners, don't put past what God's doing in your past that he's going to use in your present time, right? True. And so I looked at her, I'm like, we got to go. So 3 days in the hospital, ICU, MRIs, whatever. They couldn't figure anything out. They said, your brain has to heal on its own. So I went home and slept 20 hours a day for a month.
For a month.
For
and
a
then
month.
At some point, you heard the Lord's voice, an
audibly.
Voice. Tell us, what did he
say?
Yeah,
so here's the thing. I'm on the ceiling all the time, and I can't imagine that y'all are. I'm just saying for me. So my wife loves when I'm sleeping. She gets a break.
She had no problem with 20 hours.
No, that was vacation extended.
So you were on your back for almost a month.
Yeah.
At some point, you said you heard the Lord's voice audibly.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah, see, so as writers, artists, the Holy Spirit will come on you and say, here's something, run with that. And we do that, right? This was a first for me. And I'm sitting in a room and I audibly, male voice, I was scared to death, but I was excited at the same time because I knew who it was. I mean, it was only one person, entity this could be, right? And he says, Benny, I have huge and great plans for you coming out of this thing. So I did what anybody would do, right? I snot cried like a 2-year-old till I fell asleep, right? And this happened several days in a row, right? On this last day, it's like, Benjamin, I'm telling you that I have huge and great plans for you coming out of this thing. And I'm sitting there, I'm a nobody, right? And I'm like, oh, Lord, I know what you're doing. My favorite verse, Jeremiah 29:11, wear it on my wrist, right? Best promise in the Bible. I said, you're affirming me through my favorite verse. He says, yeah, but listen, the next song you write for me, Jeremiah 29:11 is the title. I don't want to hear the verse in your lyrics, but what I do want is when people listen to this song, how I stepped into your life and saved it, I can do the same thing for them if they just press into me. And I'm like, so then I cried like a baby again until I fell asleep.
Well, you cry a lot. Like
a lot. But then I'm going to my office and he audibly gave me the lyrics for that song. And I'm in,
right?
and I'm in my office and it looks like a third grader writing, right? Big old circles on my blotter pad. My wife is like, what are you doing? I'm like, God told me that, because I couldn't talk. And every time we do that, well, I had a young lady after a show come up and she says, can I have hugs? And I said, well, sure. And we're doing this. And she says, can I tell you something? A Jeremiah song. I'm like, I'm wrecked. And I'm like, are you? And she says, yeah, what is that? And I said, that's the Holy Spirit. What God's done in your life, go tell other people. That's what the song is about. That's my favorite parts of a show.
Speaking of your wife, I cannot imagine what she was going through that time.
Yeah.
How did that impact her prayer life, her obvious wanting to salvage her husband, even though she knew she was going to have you awake more than 4 hours in a day?
Yeah, she was pressed in, man. Like seriously pressed in. She became a full-time RN. So every 3 hours, it was an Ensure, because I wasn't eating, a Powerade, and meds.
Yeah.
For everything. I was 198 when I got hurt. A month later, I was 160 something. And there's better ways to lose weight.
Yeah,
saying.
I've heard
But
it's easier.
it's easier ways. And but that became her life, right? And so my band guys and my family and my kids, and they're like, and I'm on the ceiling all the time, and I couldn't talk. And when the first month, I knew nothing, so I didn't start talking until like month 2. Yeah. And when I did, it would be like, so guys, like I've known John forever.
That's our producer. Yeah.
And when we talk, besides shaking his head, right? And so how the words came into here, I'd go, oh, those go together. And that's how it was coming out. And I'm the lead singer for my band. So the band's like, what's up with this? And so, and my family is like, is this a new dad? Is this my new husband? And all that.
Right.
But prayers cover much. And I had some prayer warriors over me, man. And God obviously had a purpose. And
well, speak to our listeners about someone who's gone through a serious situation like that.
Yeah.
What can you say to them after you've been through it to try to encourage them or speak to them?
Yeah, if you've been through, I mean, first thing I would say is if you have any type of doubt about miracles in the world, you're listening or seeing one, talk to you right now. There's no other explanation. My neurosurgeon, when he released me 4 months later, says, you're my miracle dude, because no one should be doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Being through what you did. And I said, okay, doc, but I have a bigger doctor than you. And he laughed and he says, that's right. I didn't do anything. I said, I got your bill. You think you did a lot. But, and then I got in the truck and guess what? I drove home.
Yeah.
Wow.
4 months later. And so what I would say to people is if you've been through anything in your life, there is nothing that God can't step in and take care of, because he has a specific design purpose for everybody. I don't care what your stage is, what stage of life you're in, what illness you've been through, anything, press in, follow Jesus, and listen.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a hard word.
Do you find you have any lingering effects from your brain injury?
I do. So October will be 8 years. I have zero smell. I have zero taste.
Really?
Which is horrible. I'm
That'll
Italian.
help lose weight.
I want to eat. And every now and then I'll get a little memory snippet.
Yeah.
That it just it takes me a bit to come back. But other than that, I mean, we have 2 records out since then. And how does that happen? But God, you know?
I just got a time cue from our producer. I want to ask you, what's next for Benny DiChiara and Empowered, and how can people learn more about you and your music? Yeah,
man. So what's next? We're actually trying to tour the new record between now and the end of the year. And so our website is Rockin', no G, ROCKIN, the number 4, Jesus, rockinforjesus.com. We thought it was short. It made sense. It was kind of cute. We're on like over 40 streaming platforms that you can go to. Plus, we're on all the social media stuff under Empowered Official, as well as like YouTube for the official videos.
Yeah. Well, here's another example, guys, of finishing strong.
Finishing strong.
You're in your 50s. You're rocking
Not done
for
yet.
the Lord.
Not done
even
yet.
after the traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, man.
Injury, you are not done. God is not done
yet.
with you.
That's right.
And he's not done with you. And we so appreciate Benny DiChiara stopping by. And guys, another great edition of Finish Strong.
Yeah,
Sure
thanks,
is.
Benny.
Sure it is.
Appreciate you joining.
Hey,
You'll be
thanks for
back with us
having me.
again.
It's been a
good
blast.
to do it. Yeah, so pick up Yahweh Nisi and his other albums. God bless. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Finish Strong. For more information about Finish Strong and Fearless Faith, check out their website, ffaith.org. Make sure that you rate and review this podcast to help more people accomplish their God-given purpose so that together we can finish strong.